If you don't know me, hi, my name is Kushank. There's a whole bunch of AI tools coming out every day. It can be very overwhelming, and honestly, you don't need 98% of them. You just need to know how to use the tools that you might already be using a lot better, so you can do everything you need to do without like spending a whole bunch of money on like buying subscriptions to a whole bunch of tools. So in this video, we're gonna do a breakdown of lean and mean AI tools type for marketing. All right, so let's get started. So if I were to record this video about a month ago, I would not have started off with ChatGPT. But the new image model that's available on Forum Model literally changed the game. It's honestly insanely good. So before, when you were trying to generate images with ChatGPT, you would get something like this. The text is kind of broken and the images would look very fake. Like very evidently, you can just tell it's just terrible AI. And if you wanted to generate images using AI, you would use Midjourney. But the new model changes the game. Similar prompt that we just used, but with the new model, it looks hyper realistic and we're getting really close to a point where you can't tell what's real and what's not. So how do we use that in marketing? So if you don't have a designer on the team or you don't have a lot of time and you want to design something, you can leverage ChatGPT for images to do a lot of your design work. Here's a few examples. So I just shared my landing page. So it has a bit of an idea of how I design things or what my design scheme is. And based on this, I wanted to generate an Instagram ad. And here's the ad it generated. We have perfect text. We have the colors, the brand colors. The text is being rendered perfectly. Again, my prompt here wasn't something crazy. It was very simple. And we have an output, which looks something I can pretty much use like right off the bat for production. I may want to change copy here, but still like I'm starting off with a good draft. So essentially ChatGPT for an image can do the function of your graphic designer. Here's a few more examples here. This is an infographic that I created for describing, rainy weather in Vancouver. And then this is an infographic it created for me right away. If I'm creating marketing assets, I need visuals to support whatever I'm creating. I can just use the 4.0 model to do so. The other super common use case that you'll see right now everywhere is like creating ads. So if you are an ad agency or if you are in, if your team run ads, you need a lot of creatives, you can just upload your product photos, describe a prompt or ask AI to help you create a concept. So like ask it to be a creative director and boom, this is the ad creative we got. The same way you can like have a bunch of different ad creatives. You can like experiment rapidly. You can have like 10 different versions of something similar, test it on your ad platform, see which one's performing the best and iterate very quickly. The same way for my newsletter, I'm trying to like do a summary of the whole newsletter as like a comic strip at the very end. And I was able to just use ChatGPT for a model to create this infographic comic strip with my like brand mascot, which is just like, like this yellow little robot thing that you will see on the screen over here. But it's not even limited to that. Maybe you're working on a tech team or in a startup and you need to like, mock up some designs, maybe for a new app release or mocking up for a new feature that you're adding. You can literally go from a prompt to high fidelity designs just within ChatGPT as well. So here, we have this mock-up for like a Spotify looking clone. I mean, this looks pretty much like Spotify, but this was generated as an image within ChatGPT. So pro tip here, if you want to edit any of these images that are being created, either you can just go into the image and just click on select and you can just describe whatever edit you want to do, or you can just like use the brush to kind of like suggest those edits if you want edit to be in a very specific section of the image. Or the other option is you go to Figma, and in Figma, you use the Codia plugin. So Codia plugin can turn any Figma or like any screenshot into an editable Figma design. I mean, of course, it's not perfect always, depending on how complex your design is, it's not gonna render all their layers properly, but it's still a good starting point because now you have the design that you generated within ChatGPT, and you can take that as a template and bring it in Figma and just edit with all the tools available within Figma. So here I have the design that's now editable in Figma. I have like all these different layers that I'm just like moving around. Maybe I just don't want this font. I want a different font. I can now just remove this text and I can just like add a different font and just add that text into my design. So we just took the design that we generated in ChatGPT and made it more editable in like Figma as our design editor. Honestly, if somehow there's a tool that can make this within Canva, that's gonna be insanely useful because I mean, most of us don't really like using Figma. It's too complex for us unless you are a professional UX UI designer. So Canva kind of like plugin would make it insanely useful. So I'm gonna be writing a post soon for the best prompting tips for ChatGPT images. So make sure you subscribe my newsletter so you can stay up to date with that. And also I have a video like breaking down like how do you go about all these different use cases within ChatGPT images. So if you're interested, you can check that one out. We're gonna move on here. All right, what else do you do in marketing? You gotta do lead magnets. And what are lead magnets? Lead magnets is something of value that you give to a user, someone who visits your website, someone who's part of your mailing list, in a way to start building trust, in a way to add them to your sales funnel, be it a newsletter, be it like email sequence or whatnot. You can see like HubSpot does it pretty well. They always have like a bunch of different things they're giving away, different sort of guides, maybe a guide to use ChatGPT. Literally, like they have a whole section here for the lead magnets here. Here's the workflow that I like using if you want to build a lead magnet. So I would start with the deep research tool. We're going to jump into deep research tool in detail in like later in the video. I'm just going to give you a very quick overview over here. First, we're going to use the deep research tool to go over a bunch of different sources on the internet to identify what are the things our audience actually cares about. So once we get ideas of those topics, the things people care about, now we're going to take those topics and we're going to ask deep research tool to do like basically do a deep research and write a guide or at least get us the information for that topic. Once we have deep research tool conduct everything, we're going to review everything just to make sure we actually align with everything that's being said. And then we can use tools like gamma.app to turn that into like a PDF or a lead magnet with visuals automatically. So that brings us to our tool Gamma, which is like basically AI for presentations. For example, let's say my topic is simply like challenges of AI adoption in business. All I have to do is here, go to Gamma, and then either I can import my file or a website where I have the resources, or I can just paste in like text. I just paste in the text and Gamma will automatically turn all that text into like a presentation that I can export as a PDF. So that's like one version of doing a lead magnet using an AI tool, which is Gamma, but I think it's still useful if you're just doing any presentations. You have like a whole bunch of research that's kind of done, you know, bunch of unstructured data, and you want to put it together into a visual that's more readable or shareable within the team. So what else you need to do in marketing? Data analysis. The whole marketing job is to come up with an idea, build it out, and then test if it's working or not. And if it's working, you keep doing it. If not, you keep on iterating. How do you figure out what's working and what's not working? You have to look at the data. If you're doing marketing without looking at the data, you're literally throwing your dollars down the drain. So data analysis is really, really, really important. And you don't have to pay for like a third-party tool to do any data analysis. If you're paying for any of those tools like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, probably like Gemini or ChatGPT a lot better, you can just have AI do the data analysis for you. Here's an example. So let's say I upload a file for like data for like a chocolate sales, and just ask AI to analyze, like, you know, can you analyze which chocolate categories perform best in various locations and show the data visually? Now, ChatGPT, I'm just using any reasoning model within ChatGPT, and I think that's good at coding because basically AI is going to write code to do the data analysis for us. So I would use any reasoning model that's good at coding for this within ChatGPT, or like Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is very good at coding and reasoning as well. So now AI is gonna like crunch the numbers and it's gonna give us the data for what we need. So here we have a visualization of the data of total sale amounts for chocolate category and different countries. So for dark chocolate, for mint chocolate, for other category, and for peanut butter, how the numbers vary for different countries. This is the data that we get. The same way I asked it to forecast the sales for different products over like the next 6 months using like a data forecasting model called Sarima. I can ask it to do predictive analysis. Maybe you want to know what's a forecasting trend for all the products over the next 6 months. Here I have a chart that has a sales forecasting over the next 6 months. I mean, these are like terrible examples, but the point is, if you don't have a data analyst on the team or don't have the time to create these massive spreadsheets and like all this number crunching and all the pivot tables and data plotting and all that, you can just add the data to your LLMs. And you know, if you are like a business that has sensitive data and you just can't share it with LLMs, data privacy is a big concern. Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, that's an enterprise product. If your company or business has enterprise licenses to these LLM models, like maybe ChatGPT Enterprise, look at their data privacy policy. Maybe that privacy policy aligns with the task you want to do, and you can still leverage the LLMs to start processing the data. Again, of course, you can use third-party tools like Julius AI, which is more like a specialist tool for doing data analysis with AI, where again, you just upload the data and you write your prompt in terms of what data analysis you want to do, and it's going to do that for you. But if you don't want to pay for another tool, just use ChatGPT reasoning model or Gemini 2.5 Pro, the reasoning model as well, and you can do data analysis within these tools. So we talked about creating, some of those image ads, but what about you want to do video ads? My recommendation would be Kling AI. Here's an example. Like, you can go from a prompt to a video, you can go from an image to a video, or you can take a bunch of assets and combine them together into a video. Here's an example. I have a reference image here for a model, then I have a reference image here for like a crown, then like a bit of a background, and then like the sweater, which I got from, I think, Zara or something. And I wanted to see if I can turn that into like a video as an ad for the sweater with this reference scene. So my prompt here is like, on a stage, a girl wearing the deep blue sweater and a crystal crown calmly looking at the camera. Here is the video that I got from Kling AI 1.6 model. Of course, I think now we're probably getting more sensitive to telling what's AI, what's not. But I mean, these models are only getting started. I'm pretty sure in the future, we won't be able to tell what's real and what's not. It's scary, yes. Empowering, also yes. I don't know which way I should be leaning here, but I just want to show you the things that's possible for marketing using AI. So let's move on. So one thing I want to mention, since we're focusing on like, a small number of tools that can do a whole bunch of things versus like paying for every single individual tool, is that you have to see if the thing you're trying to do, it can be replicated by custom GPTs or not. Custom GPTs or projects in Claude. For example, if you're thinking about paying for a tool to like generate LinkedIn content, maybe think twice. Maybe there is a use case for that. Maybe it's easy for you, it saves you time, or maybe the workflow, the way it integrates within LinkedIn to publish the content makes sense for you to pay. But don't forget, you can literally build a custom GPT to do that for you. So if you just go to custom GPTs, you go to configure. So for instructions, I would probably use like Prompt Genie's primer model, obviously. And I'll just be like, I need a prompt or, instructions for creating LinkedIn content. For the instructions for GPT, you could probably just use Prompt Genie's mastermind algorithm, obviously. So here you at least have a template for your instructions, and you can modify it based on like your goals and everything that you want to do, the context you want to add. And then here under like, knowledge base, you can take the information all the experts talk about for LinkedIn content. If it's YouTube video, get the transcript. If it's internal brand guidelines, take those. Maybe you have a tone of voice you want to copy, take those. Writing examples, take those. Upload that as a file, and then boom, you have like your custom GPT that's going to do the LinkedIn content for you, instead of paying a third-party tool, which is essentially doing the same thing for like LinkedIn prompts. And the same way, like, for content creation, there's a whole bunch of tools out there, but alternatively, you can build an automation within Zapier. For example, I have an automation here where like if I come across like a useful article with a single click, it's going to run this automation where first just going to go through the web page, get all the content, then it's going to create 3 ideas for like Twitter threads, 3 video script ideas, 3 newsletter blurb ideas, 3 LinkedIn post ideas, and then put it all together into the Google Doc. And thanks to Zapier for sponsoring this video. So this is like one example of things you can start automating, by just connecting ChatGPT or Claude within your workflow automation. I have a whole playlist on my channel as well for a bunch of automations that you can build super easily without coding. So go check that out if you need more ideas or inspiration. But what I want to say is that tools like Zapier makes it super powerful to build AI workflows. So instead of paying for third-party tools, you can just spend like 15-20 minutes and build the automation. So you have a lot more control over what you do, and the cost is going to be a lot less versus paying for a tool. So what else you want to do in marketing? You probably want to do email marketing campaigns. So here's a tool for that. It's called Blixie. Essentially, it's like AI for email marketing. I'm going to show you an example of the campaign that I generated recently. So when I go to Blixie, all I'm going to do here is like just chat with this chatbot to explain what type of campaign I want to do. And then like here in the settings, I've already established my brand, which is Prompt Genie, like what the colors are, and like my website, so I can kind of understand what the brand is about, what the product is, what it does. And now from a prompt, it generated me a 3 email sequence for like day 1, day 3, and day 5 for that campaign with the copy and the design. So here's like what the first email looks like. Again, it's kind of like on my brand. I like kind of how it breaks it down. There's a lot of like visual hierarchy in the content as well, different sort of sections in the email. And then there's like a third email as well. I mean, this one isn't coming off as well, but at least as a starting point, like, I have a template that I can use for my email campaign. All I can do is like just export this email, and it's going to be HTML export, which I can use in my email marketing software to then just, create out my campaign, flesh it out. But I can use this tool to like draft the first version of the campaign. So the reason I mentioned this tool, because I may or may not be involved in this project. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So anyway, I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there for anyone who's interested in trying this out. Let me know if you have any questions. We're going to move on here. So another super useful tool that anyone in marketing should know about is called PicaArt. So PicaArt, I think, is super cool if you have like creative ideas and you want to like have some really kind of cool attention grabbing hooks for your videos or whatnot. Here are like some of the cool things you can do. So we're just gonna do a quick overview here so you know what it can do. So if you use your Pika Edition tool, you can add like anything you want to your existing video. For example, here we have like, I can't remember, I think this is from like a cartoon or like a movie. But here, anyway, we have this like furry guy here on the paddle board along with the guy. So it kind of like makes very kind of creative hooks for the videos. The same way, if you go to Pika Swap, you can like swap any part of an object within the video. For example, here we have like a Honda CR-V with like a donut tires. So we're just, you know, we can use the tool to kind of like swap any part of the video, again, just to kind of make that creative hook. So they have this new thing called Pika Twist, where we have like these kind of effects where there's like a little twist happening based on a prompt, based on a creativity. So again, I wanted to mention this tool out because you can do like a whole bunch of UGC content with AI, you can do a whole bunch of video generation, but for like these little cool effects that could be attention grabbing for your, you know, TikTok or IG content, I think this could be useful. So I wanted to mention deep research. There's a lot of tasks within marketing that requires us to do a lot of research. Maybe you are redoing a landing page and you need to understand what are the best practices to build a better landing page. Maybe you're doing competitive analysis. Maybe you have to do like market research for a new idea. Maybe you have to do content research, you know, what we talked about earlier, what people want. And then for that topics, we need content for blogs, for lead magnets, for SEO and whatnot. This is where deep research tools come into play. So right now, the deep research tool it's being offered by Gemini and ChatGPT and Perplexity, but the Perplexity one isn't as good. So we're gonna stick with Gemini and we're gonna stick with ChatGPT. So when we type a prompt, for example, research recent creator economy trends for my influencer marketing strategy. So whatever the topic might be, first, you know, it may ask you a fun follow-up question. So that way it doesn't have to rerun the whole big deep research project over and over again. Based on your clarifying questions, we're just gonna go and do the research. Here's an example for the lead magnet, which I created, which was prompting techniques and like, you know, the whole theory of prompt engineering. So this was done, you know, using ChatGPT deep research model. What it did was it went through like 31 sources on the internet. You know, we can look through the sources over here. There's Data Camp, there's Wikipedia, there's Data School, there's Google's blog, there's Prompt Guide, there's Hugging Face, McKinsey, Medium articles. So basically a whole bunch of credible sources from the internet did the research and put together this massive report with all the details I would need to know. The point here is again the same, because I really want you to understand this, that you don't need to spend like money on paying for a whole bunch of different AI tools. So we are like curating only a handful of tools which you can use to do pretty much everything you want to do in your marketing or for your business. So before we wrap up, I just want to share one more tool which I think is super empowering. So anyone who has an idea, maybe you're working in a marketing team and you need to like create mockups, you need to create prototypes either for websites or for like app ideas or for like little tools you may want to add for your internal operations, or you want to build some kind of portal application for your clients just to help them better. You gotta be a vibe coder. Even Google just released their tool called Firebase Studio, which is gonna be a tool for building like software. And right now, apparently or allegedly, OpenAI is in talks with this company called Windsurf, which is again like a vibe coding tool, to be bought for like $3 billion, a company that was like built 4 years ago. So vibe coding isn't going anywhere. The tool I've spent most of my time working is called Lovable. So essentially you can use this to turn your ideas into like website design, you know, like how we did earlier on where we used ChatGPT to like did a mockup. If we put that in Lovable, we tell it what type of app we're trying to create. It's gonna literally create the whole prototype for it that's working. You can connect the backend, you can add the logic, you have all the front end that's working. It's all good to go. The same image I got from ChatGPT, I added the prompt, I told it what I wanted to do. So I have a front-end prototype for this particular web page that's sort of working. I do see like some broken images here, which I can just chat with to like fix it. But essentially I have like a working prototype. I wouldn't recommend like if you want to try to build a startup, it's a good starting point, but don't rely on this because you would need technical expertise or else you can have a lot of vulnerabilities in your code. But from a marketing perspective, you know, just to work with the engineering team, give them ideas, tell them what you're thinking, give them like the front end as a starting point. These tools are super powerful. There was another example here as well where I was able to like do even animation for like a website design. This might be the project here. Yeah, so I kind of gave it a bit of a visual of like how I want the design to look and what kind of animation that I wanted. And let's see how the demo plays here. So here, as we scroll, we see this orange line sort of like animating within the design. So again, I was able to do like this sort of animation just with a single prompt within the platform called Lovable, or any, you know, like vibe coding platform that you may want to choose. So before we wrap up, I want to share one last tool, which I think should definitely be in your AI toolkit. It's Claude. I can do a whole video on this, but I think there's the two things you should keep in mind for Claude. One is for writing. Claude is pretty good at writing, and the best way to use it for writing is just like using or creating your own writing style. So if you go to Claude and you go to like its use style feature, I have like a bunch of these styles created, but essentially all you gotta do is like create a custom style, either just throw a bunch of writing examples or describe what kind of writing style that you want for Claude to emulate or like, write like, so you can make it write more like human versus like a robot or AI. That's pretty much it. Now, every time, you want to write something or you want Claude to write something for you, you can just pick the writing style. For example, like, LinkedIn voice here, and then be like, post on best prompting practices. I mean, I'm trying to like just do a random topic here. Ideally, you should not have Claude do the research for you. You should have your like raw content being submitted here into your writing style and then have it write for you. So that's one thing that you should be using Claude for. Based on the writing style, it's kind of creating that content, but this would vary based on the writing style that you're creating for your own personal tasks. The second thing that you should be using it for is like dashboards. So whatever you're trying to do for like your visualization, maybe for your reporting, maybe here's like a persona generation and whatnot, and getting some feedback on the landing page from a persona. If you just add to the very end of your prompt, like please share results as a quick interactive dashboard, you can now like get these artifacts that are like very visual and very shareable. So I think this is a super powerful feature within Claude if you want to like, generate reports. If you want to like share some data with your stakeholders, you want to generate reports for your internal team meetings, for your clients and whatnot, you can like start using Claude to like generate these sort of like interactive dashboards and export them or publish them. Let's see how we can publish them here. So we can publish them and like share that as a link, or we can download that as like a text file. So you can like, so once you have that artifact, you can either screenshot those or you can just share the link as to the artifact by just publishing and copying the link over here. Let me know if you actually want a whole video on like just Claude and a whole bunch of things that I've been able to do with Claude, or you can always check my short form videos on TikTok and Instagram, where I talk about Claude more than I should on my channel. And also, I'm gonna say it for the third time now, the newsletter. There's so much content there. You're gonna love it. So this was a long video. Thanks for being here. I hope this was insightful. You learned something new, you have creative juices flowing, and you understand the fact that instead of paying for a whole bunch of different AI tools all the time, you're gonna start leveraging the handful that can do 80% of the work. So we talked about ChatGPT for like a bunch of images, for deep research, for data analysis. We briefly went over Gemini for deep research, for coding tasks, and for like data analysis. Claude for reporting work, for writing work. We talked about Blixie for email marketing. Briefly went over Prompt Genie for prompt engineering and like writing better prompts. Again, ChatGPT to like build those custom GPTs, or like Claude for building those projects, which is like basically the same thing as ChatGPT's custom GPTs. For videos, we talked about Kling AI, and then for video effects, we talked about Pika. We talked about Gamma for like creating visuals for lead magnets or presentations, and we talked about Zapier to build like simple AI agents or AI automations to start putting a lot of your work on autopilot. If the video was useful, give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and leave a comment for any content requests you may have. I'll see you shortly.